Hello and welcome back to Grapple Theory. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Now today we're delighted to welcome a brilliant up-and-coming Irish star to the show. She's recently moved to London to pursue her dreams of wrestling in the UK and is quickly making a name for herself both in the ring and behind the scenes, where she does the makeup of the wrestlers that are appearing on shows. As you'll see from this chat, she just loves wrestling above all other things, and she'll also be revealing on this show exclusively the secret behind the McDonald's menu item she created and the outrageous song that she's going to be walking down the aisle to at her wedding. Plus, we'll talk a little bit about wrestling too as well, I suppose. Please welcome to the show, Amira Blair. Amira, thanks so much for joining us. How are you? How's everything been going?
Everything is grand, my darling. I am living it up at the moment. I'm really enjoying myself over in London. Yeah, nothing really out of the ordinary apart from that.
No, absolutely. I mean, when did you move to London?
I moved to London maybe about 2 months ago. Yeah, okay. 2 months ago I moved.
Okay, have you been settling in?
I struggled at first, but I'm starting to get better and better. The longer I'm here, I've moved over with my friends, so at least I have him to touch base with, and my partner's here as well, so I've got support here.
That's good. Well, it's good to hear you're settling in well. Did you move? Was it like for work, for wrestling that you moved over?
For wrestling, yeah, that's what we really moved over for.
That's cool. That's like obviously a huge commitment to take as well. I mean, when was the point? Because obviously you'd been training and wrestling before the move. When was the point you thought, you know, I should move to London if I wanted to do this sort of more?
Sure. Well, lockdown was a massive contributor to that. With everything that happened in Ireland before the pandemic and then during the pandemic, obviously Speaking Out happened. It kind of opened my eyes up to what I wanted to do, which was to wrestle. And I knew my degree was finishing soon, and I had an opportunity to go as soon as it was done, and I took it and focused on my wrestling completely. So yeah, it's really paid off. Been happy enough.
Awesome. And what was your degree
in? Building surveying.
Oh, okay. And, interesting.
Yeah, so buildings. Not a very wrestling.
It's not very wrestling, but is that something like that you'd want to do as a career, say either after wrestling or like during wrestling, if it was like a part-time thing? Or
yeah, well, I do it now as a job, as a shoot job, and then wrestle at the weekends, or get involved in something to do with wrestling at the weekends. That is, if I'm not wrestling. But obviously the dream is to wrestle. I would love to just eventually leave this job and then maybe go and wrestle full time, but we're not at that point yet, darling. We've got a few years to go yet.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mention that because, you know, with the pandemic and everything, other wrestlers that we've spoken to for Grapple Theory have also mentioned the fact of, you know, whether they're part-time or full-time at the moment we speak to them, that it's so interesting that, you know, they think everyone thinks it's so important to have that backup, that thing you can also do just in case something like the pandemic happens and you've got that thing to fall back on.
Well, that's the thing. The pandemic was a very big eye-opening experience for, I think, everybody. For me personally, just on the phone, sorry. For me personally, I used to work in makeup, and I worked in makeup for about all in all 6 years altogether.
Right.
And during the pandemic, it became very clear that makeup was one of the things not needed. So makeup, wrestling, all these things were taken away very, very quickly, all the things I enjoyed doing. I also used to play music at weddings and stuff like that, and that was taken away from me as well. So it became very clear that, like, we all have to start getting backups in case something like that ever happened again. So that's kind of why I'm very grateful that I had the degree to fall back on. But the pandemic also made me realize that I want to work in wrestling. Even if I can't wrestle, something to do in wrestling, I'll be happy doing. So that's why I started my my little business, K-Face, and just started, like, in case wrestlers need any makeup or anything, or any stage makeup at all, and then I can do that, so that I'm still always working in the wrestling business as well. And I've got a few other things coming soon. I'm currently looking into do wrestling gear, and hopefully we'll be starting that soon. So hopefully soon.
Plenty in the works. Plenty in the works.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll have plenty of things going on.
And you mentioned K-Face, and I was going to ask you about that later, but as you mentioned it, we'll get onto it now. What is that like as an experience, doing the makeup for other wrestlers and then going out and facing them in the ring when they're wearing the makeup that you've put on them?
I've only had that once with a wrestler.
Okay.
And I love it. I absolutely bloody love it. I just love being in wrestling, any shape or form. For example, when we did Eve recently, I was only in the Rumble. I wasn't doing anything like, any big matches or anything like that. But I did a lot of girls' makeup that day, and it's a really good bonding experience to kind of like meet other female wrestlers in the industry, talk to them, learn anything that they've got, take some tips and advice. It's been brilliant, and I honestly just really, really enjoy it. It's one of the most enjoyable parts of wrestling for me is doing all the girls' makeups and stuff. And even if I'm not on the show and I'm not wrestling or doing anything like that, I'm just happy to be a part of the show in some way like that.
Oh, that's awesome. And you mentioned that. And is it, or at first, I guess, was it, is there that pressure on it? Is it a bit daunting to have to do it and know that these people are going out and wrestling in front of audiences, or like possibly like with the Eve show, with the possibility of being, on stream on a live show?
Oh God, it is. It is nerve-wracking. Of course, you're worried that like, what if it doesn't look good? What if it goes wrong? What if they don't like it? What if they're not happy? But I haven't had that yet. I haven't had at least any complaints to my face yet. So we'll worry about that when the time comes. If it does happen, then we'll fix it. Don't worry. It's only a bit of makeup at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Can always be taken off. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. And is it, I guess, a bit, it must be nice to be, because wrestling is an art form. It's, it's creative. It's almost like theatre in a way. So it must be nice to be that creative with it. You can sort of, have a little personal touch in here and there and really go for it style-wise.
Yeah. It's nice that I get to incorporate like certain looks with certain people's gimmicks and stuff like that. It's nice giving them that little personal touch, and I don't think there's much more I can say about it really. Apart from I really enjoy it, and hopefully it continues to do as well as it's doing at the moment. We've got some big dates booked in, and it's doing really, really well at the moment. So hopefully it continues.
Awesome. And how many, like, in terms of if you're booked for a show, how are you doing everyone's makeup there? Or is it sort of like a wrestler will be like, oh, can you come to the show and do my makeup?
The place would usually book me out. The way it's working at the moment is that I'm available there. Girls usually give me a number of how many of them want their makeup done. And I'll do it on the day, whatever that they're looking for. I always have as well, I've always noticed, at least whenever I'm doing makeup at the shows, is once I'm doing one person's makeup, then somebody else will want it done. So maybe on the day, like 3 people want their makeup done. But then later on, as the day progresses, it ends up that I'm doing the whole place's makeup anyway, because they're seeing someone else get their makeup done, and that they want to get their makeup done as well. So yeah.
Cool. Do you have any like favourites that you've done so far? Like, I know that's sort of putting you on the spot and saying, pick someone, but do you have any favourite looks that you're like particularly proud of that you've done so far?
Yeah, I think at the moment I have one. All the girls have been amazing, but my favourite one that I've done so far that I've really loved was Casey Owens. I've recently done a like tribal look on her, and it was actually one of my favourite looks I've done in a long time, and I can't wait to do anything else on that girl's face, because she was one of the loveliest, most decent people I've met. And yeah, she absolutely loved getting the makeup done. We had the gig, we had the time, and yeah, just can't wait to do more kind of styles on her and try and I know I can do better with her look, so I just want to do another version of her look.
No, I thought if that's the one you posted on your Instagram, I saw that one. That one was fab. And Casey Owens has got to be a really good sort of canvas to work on with that because of her character, because she's this wild character, so you can really go all out with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And fab. And with wrestling, getting back to yourself in the ring, it must be nice to be back at shows now, to be back wrestling and being able to be booked on cards and do what you love.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm loving being back. I'd love to be doing a lot more with the wrestling at the moment, but I haven't been pushing myself nearly as much as I should be to do that. So that's on me. But the shows that I have been on, I've been really, really, like, I've had the time since I've came here. I've been here 2 months and I've done more shows here than I ever did in Ireland. So I'm absolutely delighted. Love it.
Amazing. And
loving it.
And coming from Ireland again, like you say, we spoke to Debbie Cattell a couple of weeks ago for Grapple Theory, and we were speaking about the Irish wrestling scene. I mean, Debbie's fab. I mean, she's wonderful, and we were talking about the Irish wrestling scene and how it seems that no matter what card you look on, wherever you look, there's always like a handful of wrestlers on most cards that are from Ireland. It just seems the country has this way of producing fantastic talent.
Well, what I will say about the part of Ireland I'm from and the part of Ireland that Debbie's from Southern Ireland, which is like, I believe she's near Dublin. I believe so. I don't know. I don't want to quote that. I'm from the north of Ireland, so I'm from a completely different Irish scene to her. And their scene down south is absolutely popping. You've got some amazing names, like obviously for Valkyrie would be one, Debbie would be another, of course. Raven Creed, you've got that Katie Harvey, for example, all a good like residency down there. I'm just naming the girls. So there's a load of men in there.
There's too many to name.
West of them. Too many to name. And where I'm from in the north, for a while there wasn't a lot of talent going on there, and there was a lot at one point. And let me just stress at one point, there was literally nothing going on. There was, and the main ones at the time, when I first looked into it in 2019, was Kings of the North. They were the biggest names in the north, and they were the kind of only prominent names that I knew of at that time. However, what's amazing, and I'm raging that it's happened now that I've left, the scene in the north is just popping right now, and I don't know where it came from, what happened, but we went from at one point having no schools to suddenly having Titanic, NXG, and Wrestling IE I know is having their schools as well. And it's absolutely popping at the moment. Titanic especially has absolutely been knocking it out of the park with some great talent that's been coming in. NXG as well have just been using all these amazing little local talents that weren't getting their limelight before the pandemic, and now they're getting their chance now to shine, and they're just doing absolutely incredible. So the Northern scene, watch this space for the North of Ireland scene. It is going to explode soon, and I cannot wait to see everyone do so amazingly well. And it's just a shame that...
Sorry, go on.
Huh?
No, sorry, go on.
It's just a shame that it's happened since I left, because I would have loved to have been a part of it.
It's always the way, isn't it? It's always the way. Like,
yeah.
But I mean, it's interesting you mention that, because I'd never really thought of the Irish scene as those two separate, like north and south. I'd always sort of like just associated it as sort of one scene. But is it that way? Is there quite a north-south divide in Ireland in terms of the wrestling scenes?
I think there was, but now it's starting to come together in like a really, really nice way.
Sure.
I think at one point there was definitely my school stays here, their school stays there kind of mentality. But it's definitely starting to change, and this new movement of Northern Irish wrestling and Irish wrestling has completely blended together, and now all both sides are kind of coming together. It's like it's brilliant. It's really, really good to see. And I don't want to say that it never was together, because obviously all the sides obviously all got on. But I think now more than ever after the pandemic, we all kind of sides have been, coming together. And yeah, hopefully now that this pandemic is completely over, all the schools get to train together and start training and all together. And the north goes down to the south and starts training. The south comes up to the north, starts training. But yeah, just it's been great. Sorry.
No, brilliant. And you mentioned as well. We'll go back to yourself and the work you want to set up. You mentioned the ring gear. So you'd be in that with setting that up. You'd be designing the ring gear for wrestlers. Is that right?
I'm currently in the works of I'm going on to do a course in designing ring gear. Not designing, like making ring gear, but I'm just not, I haven't got all the details worked out yet. Literally so early days, only started last week, working with everything. But hopefully that will be something that'll be coming up by 2022 at least. And maybe it's one step closer to just working full time in wrestling, doing everything to do with wrestling. Because that's kind of my goal at the moment. My goal is to make it possible that I can have a career in just everything to do with wrestling and not have a shoot job in
yeah, absolutely. And
so watch the space. That's what I'm saying. Watch the space. I don't know all the details yet, but just leave it with me.
Yeah, that's really refreshing to hear as well, though, because normally you talk to wrestlers, and when they say they want to work full time, they mean they want to work in the ring full time. But it's nice to sort of hear your passion about, you just want to work in wrestling, whether it's, behind the scenes or in the ring or whatever it may be. You just want to be around it.
It's the only thing I want to do in my life is to be around wrestling. I think for a while I thought my goal was I want to be a wrestler. This is the only goal I want. But I think if you really love the business, if you really are passionate about it, you'll do anything to kind of like stay in it. Like I've done security guards at wrestling shows just so I can, go. I've done merch. I'm doing merch in basically most of these shows that I'm at right now, because as long as I get to go, I'm happy. I just think if you really love the business and you really want wrestling to be your job in some way, you've got to maybe look at other avenues to get into, just so it can be your job. And you'll always be around wrestling, because you can't wrestle forever.
Absolutely, so yeah. It's good to have those
extra. It's
still
my goal, but it's not the only goal.
For sure. And you've spoken about, because we'll sort of tail back onto how you got into wrestling in the ring in a little bit, but you've spoken as well in like previous like articles and interviews I've seen you do about who got you into wrestling initially and how you came to start, as many people do, watching it when you were younger, things like growing up with people like China and Lita and things like that. But when did BritWres become like, or indie wrestling in general, I guess, become like something that you were aware of and passionate about?
When did I become passionate about it? I only really discovered it through another wrestler called Myla Grace, as we used to work in the same workplace, and when I heard through work colleagues that there was a wrestler working on the floor, and they were all talking like how cool it was that she was a wrestler, I just kind of knew I needed to talk to her. I needed to find out how she does wrestling, because that's always been my dream to do it, but I never thought it was a possibility, especially in the north of Ireland where I'm from. Like I never thought there would be a place where I could wrestle. So really I got introduced to it by her. And then by default I started going to shows like OTT. There was a promotion called Respect that I used to work in as well, and they really got me into the wrestling scene. And then then after a while I just started getting more and more invested in the indies. I used to watch Progress. I then discovered Rev Pro, which I'm always at all the time now. And then I just fell in love with the indie scene, and then soon it became that the indies are all that I really watch now and want to be involved in now. And slowly but surely weaned myself off the main stage wrestling, and now I'm just all indies.
Pure
all
indie.
in indies.
Fab, that's what we like to hear. And you mentioned Myla as well. I mean, fantastic talent, and she's really come on leaps and bounds. And she's, I think, at that stage now where wrestling's come back, and she seems to really be making a name for herself on the indies, like really growing.
Killed it, man. I mean, I love the fact that this girl has just came out of this pandemic, just went, you know what, this is my time. I'm going to absolutely tear it up. And now you can't get her face off all the fucking posters. Like, every time I scroll down my Twitter feed, she's on a poster. I just did it about 20 minutes ago. She's on OTT. I'm like, God, this girl's everywhere. And I love it. I love to see it. And there's no one more deserving. She worked her ass off to get there. Absolutely worked to get where she is. And she's killing it. So well done.
Props to her, Miley. You're doing fantastic work. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And
good job, bitch.
Smashing it. And I guess that's something that you know, both yourself in the ring, but also, you know, anyone else coming through can also aspire to, because, you know, it would be unfair to sort of just single out Myla, because there's so many fantastic talents that are really coming into their own at the minute. But I guess what I'm getting at is we've had this conversation again with wrestlers before about, you know, the whole the pandemic happened, loads of wrestlers moved to I guess the States or got signed, or NXT UK, things like that. And as soon as that happens, you get the whole, you know, BritWres is dead, you know, talk coming up. And it's just bonkers, and everyone we bring it up to, you know, has the same response. But it just shows all these talents coming through. It just shows that that's not the case, and there's still a market for this, and there's still a way that, you know, you can make it big in the indies, in BritWres, and that the scene's not dead just because a few guys have gone.
No. Do you mean by getting signed? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So, like, you know, these guys, you know, they get signed, and obviously they're not on the indies anymore, and so people think like, oh, you know, the indies, you know, you get it all the time on Twitter, you know what I mean? The talk of like, oh, well, the indies are going to be screwed because these guys aren't here. But you know, the people coming up now show that's not the case.
The indies are still growing, and the indies will grow and will continue to grow. It may not be the same talent that you see, that you've been seeing for the last couple of years, but you should all be, I think, personally, if you hear someone's been signed and you've watched their journey for the indies and you've seen them be signed, you should be absolutely delighted, not be sitting shitting on the scene being like, oh, now they're gone, oh, BritWres is dead, blah, blah, blah. It's a sign of new life, and there's going to be new life coming through the scene. There's going to be new people rising through the ranks, and it's going to be their time to shine. And then when they get signed in years to come, you'll all be saying, oh, BritWres is dead again, and then the cycle will continue. So, in my opinion, personally, nothing's dead. Nothing's ever died. It's more alive than ever. Just look for it. Don't just hold on to the same people. Be great, like, how do I say it? Grateful that they're going on to do amazing, big things, but also have a look at the talent that's still right here, right now, instead of mourning people that aren't dead.
Absolutely.
I think that's a lot what the people who say, oh, BritWres is dead, BritWres is dead, they're mourning people that aren't dead. They're mourning a scene that isn't dead. They're mourning that they've moved on and they've went on to bigger, better things. It's like when your ex-girlfriend moves on to a really, really nice looking fella, and then you say, oh, she's downgraded. It's obviously not true. You're just bitter. You're just jealous. And just look at something else, you know what I mean? No,
very well said. I like that. I like that analogy.
Yeah, they just want to bullshit on something that doesn't need to be shit on. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I couldn't have put it better. And it's something else I just thought, like literally just now. I didn't have schedule to ask, but just based on what you mentioned before. And what I've heard from you in sort of like previous interviews is, in Ireland, do you see is there a divide between, say, not just the Irish scene in terms of North-South or whatever, but in terms of the Irish scene and then the rest of BritWres? In Ireland, does it feel like there's that divide, like BritWres is a separate thing?
That's that's difficult because I'm here now. I will probably tell you I'll talk to you about what I previously thought to now.
Sure.
If you'd asked me a year ago what I would have thought, absolutely there's a divide. I would have seen it as no one gave a fuck about the Irish scene. And I'll be real, I thought, even, for example, in Speaking Out, for example, some of the maddest, most horrible, horrific stories happened in Ireland with no bit of acknowledgement, because it's only Ireland, and especially the north of Ireland. So, like, no one acknowledged us. No one acknowledged our scene. No one really gave a fuck about our scene. And I did have a theory that they only care if you're London, they care. If you're big, they care. If you got over 5,000 followers, they care. They don't. People say that they gave a fuck about the Irish scene, but they didn't. Except maybe a couple of names, maybe like certain bigger names in Ireland they cared about. However, fast forward a year on now, when I moved here, I was very, very worried that I was like, well, maybe I left a scene that knows me, and I'm going into a scene where people don't know me and know nothing about what I've done before, know nothing about my past, know nothing about my gimmick or my character, and I've just walked into a death trap because who wants to sign a very, very loud Irish girl, or who wants to book a very loud Irish girl. And since I've came here, I have been proven wrong entirely. They are very opening of the Irish scene. The Irish girls are here all the time. Raven Crane at Progress the other day. Debbie Keitel shows up at RevPro. What's the crack there? Then we've got Aoife Valkyrie in NXT. We've got even Wrestle Carnival Session Moth was there like recently. Myla Grace was at Catch like 5 minutes ago. They are very accepting of the Irish girls in the Irish scene. As for the Irish men, whether it's up to me to say or not, probably not. I probably shouldn't have an opinion on it. I really think that they should be picking up the Irish fellas more.
Sure.
And there's some really, really good Irish fellas out there. I think the Irish girls have definitely put their foot in the door in the British scene here. The Irish fellas, I don't feel like they're getting much of a look in right now. Maybe I'm being proven wrong, and maybe someone's going to hear this and go, here, this person. Kings in the North come to mind actually for TNT.
Yeah.
Those would be the only ones I really know. Oh, Tucker as well would come over here quite a bit. But I think that there's a lot more names over in Ireland that fellas would definitely do amazing if they were just brought over inside and got bookings here more. So, yeah, that's my personal opinion on it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone's going to comment on this and go, actually, you're fucking wrong, bitch. But that's just what I personally kind of observed and how I personally felt from a year ago to now. I feel like the British scene is actually a lot more accepting and a lot more kinder, I think, than I gave it credit for. So I do apologise, British scene. Thank you.
It's a nice way to be proved wrong. That
absolutely.
And you mentioned Speaking Out, and that's something I sort of wanted to bring up. And obviously, you know, that was the, you know, COVID was like the first kick to the BritWres scene, and then Speaking Out happened, and I don't know, maybe it's just as someone who does grapple theory here, like, you know, as a part-time thing aside from my other job, and who is a fan of above all else. But it seemed really like the scene was on the floor at that point, like rock bottom at that point, because it was, like you mentioned, it was so heartbreaking to hear all these stories, and it was awful to see all the stuff that had gone on in front of our eyes. And was it ever, as someone again who you like you say you wanted to work in wrestling, and that's the goal, was there a moment where you reconsidered that after all this had happened?
No.
Never.
Not science. Never. Whenever everything was happening, especially with I don't want to talk about maybe what went on with us, but with our thing coming to light, it opened my eyes to how dangerous it can be. Not just in the wrestling scene, though, in life. How dangerous people could be. It was the first time I kind of got awakened to, my God, think like, this isn't normal. Well, I kind of accepted a lot of things as normal that I now know aren't, and now I'm more careful and more, like, even in everyday life. Speaking, like, gave me tools to, like, live in everyday life. But I never once thought to myself, oh, I'm going to quit wrestling. I'll never want to do it. I'll never want to do it again. It was always like, this has been my dream since I was a kid. This is the only thing that's been consistent in my life ever. To be real, ever. Of the only thing I've ever wanted. So it was never going to be, I'm never going to wrestle again. That was never a thing, but it was a thing of, this can never happen again. Everything, all the stories that were coming out, all the things that were just being allowed to happen, that people kind of like swept under the rug, or people just thought were normal. I think that was the little trigger of, this can never happen again. So I never want to leave wrestling, but I never want to leave wrestling in the state that it was again. And if I can do things now to kind of stop that, then I would. But it never was a thing for me, that I want to leave or quit. Never.
Sure.
I never crossed my mind.
Sure. And I heard the interview you did. I think it was sort of like 8 or 9 months ago with BBG, with their podcast.
Oh yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to them. They're doing fantastic work as well. I mean, you mentioned in that again, that was about 9 months ago, and the talk was about, COVID guidelines, not COVID guidelines, sorry, safeguarding guidelines coming back in the wake of speaking out, and companies coming back. And I remember you saying in that you'd hope that all that would help the scene improve and get better and mend. With shows having come back, and you having been at those shows, whether it's behind the scenes or in the ring, do you see that? Do you see a difference in the way shows are being run now?
I have seen a massive difference since I've came back. Now, I was in 2 different scenes before. So before COVID, I was in the Irish scene. After COVID, I'm in the British scene. And I will have to give British scene credit where credit's due. I don't know how the Irish scene is going up behind closed doors right now. But the British scene absolutely has everything in place. Like, we now have forms to sign, things to read. It's been, for any promotion I've worked at now, there's been such good safeguarding guidelines. There's been people reaching out saying, hi, I'll be the safeguarding officer. If you need anything, just let me know. If you're feeling a certain way, just let me know. In the last 4 promotions that I worked at. So, yeah, I have to say that I've definitely noticed there's definitely been a step up. I don't know if there's anyone I'm missing out. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anyone out. No, I don't. I think most of them have had safeguarding guidelines, which has been fantastic.
That's fab. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's the thing, isn't it? It's saying you're going to do something is one thing, but it's putting it into practice. It's making sure that it's actually done. That's not the tough part, essentially, but it's the stuff you've got to stick to.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, with that, I obviously I'm not going to name names or name promotions, but I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's talk on Twitter, there has been the last few weeks, about certain wrestlers who may have been mentioned in speaking out, who have been booked on shows, or have potentially been booked on shows, or have appeared at shows.
Okay.
I mean, how, it's not for us to sort of say, essentially, oh, this person shouldn't be booked, this person shouldn't be booked, and that's all down to sort of to Twitter and these people who have been mentioned at Speak Out, who have been booked at these shows. But how important is it that promoters and wrestlers as well sort of take a stand if someone who was mentioned, who's done something unsavory, is booked on a show that they're on or they're booking? How important is it that stand is made?
Of course, it's very, very important. But what I want to say on it is that every single speaking eye case needs to be looked at individually. And you've all got to make your own judgment call. There's been some cases where I've had to make my own judgment calls on a couple of things, and that's kind of all I really want to say about it.
Sure.
You've got to use your own head. You've got to use law, very, very importantly. And you've got to know where your morals stand and where you're at. And if you know about something and you look at it as, I don't feel morally I can work there, then you don't. At the end of the day, you're your own boss in this game. You got to make the choices whether you want to work there or not. And what I will say is sometimes the booking isn't worth it. Just if anyone is in that kind of position where they do know that there's someone that's being named and speaking out, and you do know that they maybe have done something unsavory or anything of the sort, and you've made the judgment call and the law's made the judgment call that they shouldn't be there, then you just got to make that decision yourself, and just not be involved in it.
Sure.
But then again, what I want to stress is the law is very, very important as well. Please, when you're making these calls to any other wrestler like in this position, look at the law. Look what it says. Don't look at who your friends are. Don't look at they were nice to me once or they retweeted me once. Look at the law and look what it says. And then
No, absolutely. Well put. And moving on to again something lighter, I guess, to sort of round things off. And
cool.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but some people may not know that, you know, as well as your passion for wrestling and the makeup, you've also got a passion for the harp as well.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, that's. Forget I do that. I'm a professional wedding harpist. I have not played in about 2 years now, to be fair, because I've been pandemic.
Sure.
And restricted from actually getting to my harp. But yeah, I was doing that since I was a child, and I only stopped doing it at its 17th. So that was kind of like my first real job.
So why the harp then? Because I guess it's not a conventional instrument that, say, a kid will look at and want to pick up.
It's called strict Irish parenting. It's called mother grabbing me and putting me on a harp and saying, "Go on, play, do that, and do your homework." And that's how I got into it. I wasn't 11, and I looked at a harp and went, "This is my passion."
Right.
No, it was strict parenting. But I love you, mummy. Love you.
Do you enjoy playing the harp though? Now is it something you do enjoy?
I do enjoy it. I definitely think that it's something I'll do maybe later on in life. Maybe go back and do harp as a business. Again, at the moment, I'm just happy living my 20s, enjoying my youth again. So.
I think what you really need to be doing if you want to work in wrestling is to find someone who needs a harp-based entrance.
I kid you not. One of the things I was looking at doing was doing entrance music, because I know a lot of people that wanted a harp at one point, because it sounds all very dramatic when you're playing a
something like Cara Noir's entrance or something on a harp would be
you know, that would be sick.
We'll have to ask him. We'll get him to respond to this. See if he'd be up for that.
Here, see, why not?
Fab. So I mean, that's got to be again an interesting experience. Like you say, you're doing it for weddings. Is that more or less pressure than being in the wrestling ring?
Less. Because I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
Sometimes in wrestling, I'll be real, I'm very, very new to the game. I have enough.
And you've
I'm like
no, go on, sorry.
I'm still learning the ropes, literally, with wrestling. So with harp, I kind of went as far as I could go with it, as in like I did it for years and years and years. I know how to play. I know how to make my own songs out of it. I know how to find songs out of it. I'm feeling confident in that. Wrestling, I'm still learning every single time I get in the ring. And so, yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
I'll be more confident in the harp any day than I am in the ring right now. But I will be one day. I'll absolutely smash in the ring. What do you see?
Yeah. One day that'll switch.
Mm-hmm.
And you take it back to as well, sort of like the beginning of your wrestling, because again, I think it was in that BBG podcast that you mentioned you sort of do credit wrestling with really sort of like helping you through a tough period of your life when you started training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very tough period.
Yeah, for sure. And what was it that sort of for anyone who maybe didn't listen to that or doesn't know, what was it that initially sort of like drew you to training, and what was it about it that helped you get through that tough time you were going through?
I feel like everything happens at a certain time period, and you're just meant to meet people at a certain period and be somewhere in your life at a certain period. And when I found wrestling, I needed it. I needed it to get through what I was going through. And I promised myself once I got in the ring and like properly got in the ring, and that this is what I wanted to do. This is what I owed my happiness to, because it got me out of this horrible time period that I was in, and it saved my life. It really did. Like, wrestling saved my life. That's why whenever you were speaking about speaking out and asking, did I ever cross my mind that I didn't want to wrestle? That's why, because this is the only thing I know I want to be in, and I want to do, and I want to be a part of. It's the only thing that has been consistent. It's the only thing that I know I think about every single day, and I want to do every single day. And it's the only thing that brings me joy, even though it brings me a shit ton of sadness sometimes. A shit ton of stress, actually. It's the only thing that brings me true happiness. So that's how I got through it. It just introduced this new lease of life into me. And if it wasn't for wrestling, I don't think. Oh God, should we make that statement? We should make that statement. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd be here if it was.
Really?
If I didn't find it. Yeah.
Wow.
Don't think I would.
Wow.
So I'm grateful for it every single day.
Absolutely, and
I love this fucking business, babe.
Absolutely, and obviously, you know, that means that we all are as well, because we're delighted you're here and you're doing great work, and it's fantastic to see.
Thank you.
But I mean, you mentioned that, and whether, I guess, you know, for anyone listening, you know, whether it's wrestling or whether it's anything else, you know, I guess it shows that you can't underestimate how important that thing, that release can be, that thing that takes you away from everything, that helps you shut off, that helps you shut out the world for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Everyone has in their life something that they're just truly passionate about, and fills their heart with joy and fills their heart with happiness. And wrestling's mine. I don't know if podcasting's yours, my friend, but it could be that. Just if you find something you're passionate about, don't suppress it. Put yourself fully into it, and then suddenly you find a lease of happiness you cannot find in anything else.
No, brilliantly put. And again, we'll end with a positive, because we're going to go into a little segment here we call Anatomy of a Pro Wrestler, and this is more shoot. This is more about you personally rather than Amira Blair the character. So I'm going to run you through some questions, and you just let me know sort of what springs to mind.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so the first one is what's your favorite pre-show meal? What do you have before a show if you're in the ring?
Shit, balls. Balls. That's it. I have a coffee, and I don't know. I don't eat before my meals, man. My shows, man. I don't know.
No, that's fair enough. And then the opposite side of that is the next one is, what's your favorite post-show pig out?
Oh my God, Mackie D's, give it to me,
Classic.
please. Fucking hell, that's what I want. That is it. That is it.
What's your order? What do you get?
Oh, Jesus Christ, you're going to be sick. Anyway, I get, I either do a quarter pounder meal with extra cheese, extra onion, and extra pickle. I love pickles,
really?
Man. Or I have this, wait to hear, I have this like amazing burger that I invented personally. I didn't actually invent it personally. But it's like a Big Mac with a chicken sandwich. It's like a Big Mac chicken.
Do you put all the stuff from the chicken sandwich in it, or is it just the chicken?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You put everything on it. You eat everything that you can possibly get in that small McDonald's kitchen. You just put it on a burger and you just stuff it in your mouth, man. It is sickening.
So
sickeningly good.
Where does the chicken go? Does the chicken go on the top layer of the Mac or the bottom?
The chicken goes in between one of the meats.
Right.
So you put the chicken in one of the meats, and then it's just the Big Mac chicken. Yeah, I think it's the Big Mac chicken. I don't know what I called it. It's patent pending. Leave me alone.
Secret menu item.
Yeah, but you just stuff it with pickles. Make sure it's oozing with pickles, and then that's you ready.
Brilliant.
It's ready to go.
No sides, no nuggets or mozzarella sticks or anything like that.
If you get nuggets at McDonald's, you're an absolute weirdo, and you're probably 12 and under. No to nuggets. You've got to be a big person and get yourself a burger. Cannot go to McDonald's and get nuggets. You cannot tell me that's okay. So no to nuggets.
No to nuggets. That's what we're saying. This is declaration right here.
Yeah, this is the only thing that you put in the podcast that's going to get me heat. Apart from all that speaking of stuff I said.
No to nuggets.
No to nuggets ever.
Amazing.
No.
Well, the heat this is going to get, I can't wait to see. But let's see if you can win him back round with the rest of it. The next one is the song that gets me the most hyped.
My favorite song ever is Purple Rain from Prince. Like I can't ever say it's another song. The song that gets me the most hype, anything from Steel Panther, man. Anything from Steel Panther.
That's such a shout. Yeah.
Huh?
What do you reckon though? Go on, like, let's say if you had to pick one, because I'm very on the fence with Steel Panther. Like the first couple of albums, loved. Last couple of albums, haven't loved as much.
All right. I'm gonna let you have your opinions on it. I am a super fan. I love everything that they do. Death to All But Metal is kind of my favorite. Let Me Come In is one of my favorites. Community Property is my wedding song.
The ultimate love ballad, right?
I will walk down the aisle for Community Property. I love it. And Weenie Ride would probably be my leaving song of my wedding. Or
You're like proper hardcore Steel Panther fan.
I love Steel Panther, man.
Have you seen him live?
No, I haven't, but that's because I'm scared of live concerts. And I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I know I do wrestling. I should love concerts. I don't. It's all sweaty and gross, and you can't really hear anyone, and you're hearing other people scream over your music that you want to listen to. That should just get me started on a rant.
No, well, I mean, I get that. I go to a lot of gigs, and I do understand where you're coming from. I would say, genuinely, because I have seen them, I would say that if you can overcome that and you want to go see Steel Panther, they're just hilarious live.
I will do that. I will do it for you,
my
friend.
Well, I mean, if you do now, I'm going to be so honoured.
I will, and I'll tag you. I'll tag you the day I go.
Yes, that would be fab.
Over myself.
Well, to be honest, if you go and it's in London, I'll probably just see you there because.
Yay, friend! Yay, sounds good.
Well, you mentioned favourite song. Actually, you mentioned favourite. This might be it because the next one is my favourite band. So is it Steel Panther?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's moved on to that, hasn't it? The movie I'd show the locker room.
Nothing that I can say on this podcast.
No, this podcast is free reign. I mean, you can say whatever. We don't have any restrictions.
I cannot say the movies I would show a locker room because it's definitely not PG. And it's you couldn't show a locker room just like a nice happy film. You'd have to show them something absolutely messed up, funny, and I can't say it on a podcast.
What is it?
So that's the answer. Let that be a bit of mystery.
Okay, yeah.
For you guys.
The enigma.
Yes.
Right, well, the next one is my favourite way to relax.
My favourite way to relax is a good book. Let's say the Bible in this one.
Is it the Bible though, or are you saying that to like win over what you just said about the movies?
I'm trying my hardest to try and win people back. So therefore, I read the Bible in my spare time to relax. I can't say anything else.
Sure, you can probably quote the passages like you can quote Steel Panther lyrics, right?
Yes.
Yeah, obviously.
110.
Next is my first job.
McDonald's. That's how. Yo. That's how I invented my burger. That's why I know this secret. That's how I did it. I was 16, shoved in there after getting in trouble in school, and I was having to fucking work for like £4.20 an hour, and I had a lot of time because it was night shifts. I had to invent the burger, and I did, and that's how this burger came to be. I'm 25 years old now, and I invented the best burger ever, but I didn't trademark it or nothing. So now, if someone listens to it and they make the burger, they just trademark it, then there you go.
This is the roots of how the love affair began. If someone claims that burger, we'll show them this clip, and we'll be like, "Excuse me."
Yeah, show them this clip. McDonald's, don't sue us. But I invented that burger, man.
9 years ago, ahead of your time, some would say.
Yeah, I'm ahead of I was a food genius, man. I was the McDonald's genius. I used to invent some of the weirdest things in that place.
Well, whether it's for good or bad, I mean, like, you know, who's to say what would have happened if you'd stayed there? You know, we could be looking at a crazy menu now.
No, I would have probably been a manager. In fact, I probably would be, just be miserable. That's where we would have been if I was there now. If I was still there 9 years after I started 16, oh my god, I would be so depressed, man.
Well, even with all the menu, even with the whole menu being all your creations.
My own menu. Even if I was the queen of the menu, even if McDonald's promoted me to being the menuist, I'm not sure that's a job. But if they did, I'd still be miserable because I'd still be wet there. I'd probably still be on $4.20 an hour or some shit. That was hell. I remember getting £200 a month and thinking I was a baller.
Everyone does it at 16 though, don't they? Everyone gets that much at 16, like if you get a job or something and you're like, oh, I'm rich.
I thought I was an absolute machine. I thought I owned the world with my £200 fucking slave labour working. Man.
And then you get to this age, like you say, mid-20s, and you're like, oh, there's not much money at all.
And then you're like, oh shit, like that was hell. Like,
is that all I did it for, really?
Is that all I did it for? Yeah.
Brilliant, amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, McDonald's lost, clearly, but it's excellent for you, of course.
Was their loss? They fired me because I was too good at my job.
Of course.
So, fuck you, McDonald's. I love your stuff. Don't sue me.
Well, this next one leads on from that. This could be your greatest fear, but what you said, because that is the next thing. The next thing is my greatest fear, and it could be still having worked at McDonald's, but it might be something else.
No, I have a fear. I have a real fear, and it's quiche. I am terrified of quiche. Yes.
What?
The Lorraine one, yes. Quiche Lorraine, I'm terrified of. My ma used to feed me it when I was a baby, but I couldn't speak to tell her it was fucking disgusting.
Right.
So I have trauma of her like feeding me this quiche, and I'm like, no, mum, fuck off, no, leave me alone.
Gotcha.
Stop feeding me the night.
Okay.
And I can't look at it. I run past the quiche and Tesco's. Bakeries are a no go. It takes over my life really, so I think about that once a day too.
I was confused at first when you said that, but I'm the same with mince pies because I have a similar force-fed experience. That's
right. Right. It's called childhood trauma, my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that will put you off anything.
Yeah, you need help. So do I.
No, I understand. I understand that perfectly now. I was confused at first, but now I get it. I understand. I'm on the same wavelength. I get you. Good. Two more. The next one is we're ending on happier ones though. We're ending happier ones. The next one is my favorite place. My favorite place in the world.
My favorite place in the world is Lisburn, Northern Ireland.
Lovely.
Lisburn is the city of life, man. Look it up. Just look at our town. That's where I grew up, man. That's my hood. We have a Leisureplex, man. We have it all. We have Bow Street Mall. Favorite place in the world, hands down, Lisburn.
Amazing. And finally, then, away from Ireland, because it might not be away from Ireland. It might still be in Ireland. But the last one is my dream holiday destination.
Mykonos, Greece. That's
Lovely.
my dream holiday destination. We've done Tenerife recently. Now we're going to Mykonos.
Lovely. Actually, I missed one out. Sorry, going through my list. And we'll put it back in. But the actual last one now is my dream wrestling match.
Oh no, I hate it when people ask this because, like, then I say, oh, I want to do this, and then I end up, let's go for, let's do Myla Grace today because let's just do Myla. Myla, it's pick the podcast. Well, when someone asks me in the next podcast, I'll pick someone else. Because I want to wrestle everybody. That's the goal. But at the moment, my ideal match is Myla's and definitely one of them. So let's do her.
There we go. Someone book it. Someone get it booked.
Hey.
Brilliant. Well.
OTT question.
I mean, this podcast has taken many turns. The McDonald's one was something I definitely didn't see coming, and I think it just went from there. That was. But Amira, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to anyone who's been listening, especially the last sort of, what was it? Maybe the last sort of like 15 minutes or so that have just been a roller coaster that I did not envisage when this started.
Yeah. I don't think anyone does, but that's when you ask me personally. Like, Amira and Kira are very different people.
Sure. Yeah. But so Amira's answers wouldn't be anything like what you've just said.
Probably not.
No.
No. She probably would. Maybe. I don't know. But
well,
it's been a pleasure talking to you anyway. I really got to go to the bathroom though.
I understand. I'll let you go. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, and have a great night.
For listening. Thanks again. See you.
Thanks. Have a good night. Bye.